Help. And what's help all about? I think the first thing I need to emphasize is that right now what we call a healthcare system is actually not. It's an illness care system. Most doctors don't keep you healthy. They actually only help you when you have a medical problem and you fall sick. And I think that's a broken system. And what we really need to do is try to keep patients from not becoming patients. That you don't become a patient, you remain as healthy as possible. And how can you do this? I think we need to remember is that you're your most important doctor. You're the one who needs to decide when to go to a doctor, whether you need help. And a lot of this stuff is common sense. Don't eat too much, don't drink too much, don't smoke, remain physically active. Part of the problem is that we need to take on these responsibilities. We kind of say, sab kuch problem hoga, to fir we'll just go to a doctor and get our problems resolved. And that never works well. So two things. One is how can we make sure patients remain as healthy as possible so they take more responsibility for their own care. And even if they have a problem, which, at some point all of us are going to fall sick and you need to go to a doctor, you don't leave everything up to your doctor. What can you do to be an empowered patient? And that's what the library is trying to do. So what are some of the things we're trying to achieve? The first is what we call information therapy, which means that's actually what a doctor is supposed to do. The doctors are busy people, they don't have time to sit and explain. And the good thing about a library, it's a very non-threatening environment. They can come and watch a video, they can look at a book, get more information, and maybe take this information back and discuss it with the doctor. And the information therapy is one of the things which has no side effects and is very inexpensive. And we can also provide the same thing online by answering emails. Ideally, you should have libraries in every hospital. Every hospital has patients who are sick, who have relatives who are worried about that patient. And where do they get their questions answered? Because doctors are running around seeing patient to patient. They don't have the time to sit down and talk. And if you could set up a national network of libraries, you could then provide India-specific information for whoever wanted it. I think a big issue, of course, is that a lot of what we have is in English. And then how do you translate it and then localize it? And I think that's one of the things we've done. I think the good thing about the English wiki, we've been able to translate it to a Hindi wiki. And we hope that all this will serve as a model which other people can then replicate. And I think finally the big problem we find is that there has to be business sense so that this keeps on sustaining itself. It's not something which needs to be funded all the time. And we think the business sense will come if insurance companies understand the value of investing in patient education. Insurance companies are for-profit companies, so they can actually save a lot of money by preventing their clients from getting sick, by keeping them healthy. And we can help them partner with them. So what about information therapy? I think this is something which we're trying to do all the time. And we think Ars the Librarian helps us to reach out a lot more. But I think what makes us really unique is we're not providing information therapy only to patients. We're also providing it to doctors through MD Consult, because doctors are very busy and it's hard for them to update themselves. The good thing about MD Consult is that for only about 10,000 rupees in a year, which is peanuts for a doctor, they can remain updated all the time, sitting at home and access a site which has so many full-text medical books and journals. I think a lot of what we're trying to do with information therapy is right now the information therapy is very disorganized. We're trying to make it more India specific. So, patients will find information from Mayo Clinic. What can we do to make sure that information comes to them from their own doctor? And I think at some point what we're trying to do is empower doctors so they will set up their own websites and they will take responsibility for educating their own patients. This is something we need to do, what basically is set of satellite libraries. These satellite libraries could be within hospitals, within chemist shops, within insurance companies, so that anyone, no matter where they are. The whole point is not to come to this particular physical library. This is more like a proof of concept. Why shouldn't every hospital have a library like this? That yes, how do we convince hospitals that it's worth their while giving us 200 square feet, 300 square feet and investing that money? That's actually profitable for a hospital to invest in a patient education library because it helps to increase patient satisfaction. The commonest complaint patients have is doctors didn't have time to talk to me. And then when the doctors don't and something goes wrong, they get angry and they beat up doctors and they burn down hospitals. And this is a great way of preventing that. And you're not eating up into the doctor's time, because then the doctor can say, yes, I understand you have questions. There's a patient education library we have. There's a librarian and she will help you find the information. And the library could just be an internet terminal. It could just be a video collection. It could maybe be just a core collection of 50 books or 100 books, or it could be even more ambitious. I think that opportunity is there. It's just that hospitals don't see the value add and we need to convince them. To give you an example, in Mayo Clinic, they have an entire building which is the Department of Patient Education. So not only can patients and the relatives go to the patient education center so they can refer to material, that department is also responsible for publishing patient education material and for maintaining the Mayo Clinic website, which is easily one of the most popular health websites in the world. But this is a brand which Mayo Clinic has created for itself very smartly. I think Indian hospitals need to understand the value and start doing some of this stuff. And we can help them to do that. We can help them, but again, they need to see the value in doing something. And a lot of times, hospitals are very old-fashioned. We only do what everyone else is doing. They're not willing to try out new things. And the good thing about information therapy is it's very cheap to do. So I think hopefully, as more and more hospitals come up and it starts getting more competitive, they will understand the value add of doing stuff like this. So I think it's a matter of time this will happen. What about patient educational materials? I think this is a great challenge. And I think the wiki which we've started is one way of making sure that, people will kind of see, yes, this needs to be done. Ideally, what would happen is, suppose you had a doctor in Gujarat who had his own website. He knows his own patients. He knows what questions. So he'll take little video shoots of his own interview with his own patients and upload them. So then you'll create, there's just so many Indian doctors and, Indian doctors are smart and we have access to IT skills. But we need to explain to them this is the value. Otherwise, Indian doctors say, humko kya lena dena? Why should I have my own website? If you explain to them what the value of having their own website is, what the value of providing information therapy to their patients is, I think they will start. And usually it's going to be the first few clever doctors will start, and then all the other ones will see the value and then hopefully get onto the bandwagon. Our point is that as a library, we can help them provide information. We can hold their hand. We can help them identify where all this patient educational material is available, because most doctors don't have a clue. So we can help them to educate their own patients. This, I think, again, is quite a big challenge. I think if we can crack this, it's great. Because what happens abroad, insurance companies spend millions and millions of dollars on their website.